What happens to us after we die? Do we cease to exist? Or do we live on? This may be the biggest question that mankind has ever asked, as well as what this podcast is about. In this show, we will examine past life memories, speak with professional hypnotherapists, astral projection practitioners, psychics, and much more. All in an attempt to decipher this riddle. So welcome to the puzzle. Welcome to the regression session. Welcome back to the regression session. My name is Ian, and happy holidays. This week we're going to be hearing from Ashley, and Ashley's been practicing witchcraft in various forms over 16 years, starting from Wicca and branching out from there. And now she considers herself a solitary, eclectic, and atheist/agnostic witch. She spends time studying various esoteric subjects and witchcraft through history. I asked her to come onto my show because she made a great post on Reddit about the holiday Yule, and it had a ton of great info about it. And in this episode, we actually talk about the pagan origins of Christmas. So I hope everybody gets a kick out of that and enjoys the episode. If you want to come onto the podcast to share your past life experiences or your knowledge on any metaphysical topic, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com. And here's my interview with Ashley about Yule and the pagan origins of Christmas. Hey Ashley, thanks for coming on to the show.
Hey Ian, it is very good to be here. This is an interesting opportunity for me, and I am glad to participate.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Like I was saying before we started recording, if you don't mind just giving us maybe a little bit of background about your beliefs, a background about what led you to this point, and kind of give some context as to why we're even talking about this.
Okay. So I am a mod on the Reddit subreddit r witchcraft, and I wanted to put something up for the holiday season. Yule is kind of a big deal, not just to pagans, but also to a lot of other faiths, predominantly Christian. There's a lot of holidays around the winter solstice, and I wanted to cover maybe why that was, sort of postulate what that was, the reason behind it. And also, just give an overview to maybe people who didn't know, haven't heard, just something to kind of make people ask questions and interact a little bit and learn a little bit more. Just from posting it, I have learned a couple of things from people that are more familiar with certain parts of it than I was. They've corrected me on things that I got wrong in the post, and I really appreciate that. And it's been an interesting learning experience from that. And again, I apologize. My username on Reddit is crazyashley1. I'm not actually crazy. It's a nickname from high school. I was a shin kicker in flag football. That's where it comes from.
Okay. Okay. You don't have me convinced now.
I'm a very short person, and I was a lot skinnier in high school, and all of my high school friends were bigger than me. So the only way I was going to win was if I made it look like I might have accidentally kicked a shin or two. By accident, of course.
Yeah, of course. So if you don't mind, just giving me a quick overview of what Yule is. Because when I came across your post, I was like, oh, it's Yule. I was like, what the hell is that? And I read it. So if you don't mind, just kind of giving a brief overview of what it is, And I know there's other holidays that are similar, but that almost seems like it was like the first one.
So Yule is, it's not the first winter solstice holiday. There's been winter solstice holidays as long as people have had calendars and realized, oh, this is the longest day of the year. We should probably do something to get the sun back because we don't understand space yet. But Yule is one of the more influential ones in the modern day because of just how far its traditions and influences have carried over. It originally was a Germanic, early English, Nordic holiday, sort of in that whole group right there around, Germany, England, the Scandinavian area. Basically, if you worshipped Odin, you did Yule, was a thing. And it's basically the calling back, trying to get the sun back, or celebrating the return of the light after the darkest day of the year. Again, we didn't understand how space worked yet, and winter was scary. Winter was a time where, people froze to death, people ran out of food and starved. There's legends around the world of, snow demons. I didn't get too much into that because some of it gets into tender cultural territory that I didn't feel like delving into on a, happy kind of fun Yule post. But there's a dark side to winter, and Yule was sort of a way of celebrating what we have, being together with our families, and welcoming back the light as the days stop getting darker and start lengthening again.
So let's rewind a little bit. So what about these snow demons?
So again, it's one of those things where I didn't delve too deeply into it. I think her name is Grayla, but I could be misremembering, is one of the European ones, and she is a witch who goes around and will basically eat children. That's an older that it's not even a stereotype. It's an older legend before Christian times of these, evil, not quite human creatures, and witch is the closest word we have to translate them to, that would, they would steal people and eat people. This one that I'm going to talk about next, again, is what I meant when I'm talking about cultural sensitivity sort of thing. The legend of the skinwalker, originally, from what I can tell in my research on it, because it does pop up from time to time, is not exactly a shapeshifter that, it's not the Native American werewolf. It's someone who has been driven mad by eating human flesh. And that came about, again, as far as I can tell, from just severe, kind of like what happened with the Donner Party, you're trapped, it's winter, people are dying around you, you're starving, and you give in to that survival instinct and you eat human flesh. And what develops is something called skinwalker psychosis, where
I thought it was the Wendigo. Is that
no? Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh, I completely got it messed up. You're right, Wendigo.
yeah, the Wendigo thing. And yeah, I've heard about that. And they
My bad.
No, you're totally good. You're totally good. I've done a lot of digging into this side of things too because it's fascinating to me. But yeah, they've kind of gotten misconstrued anyway. Like people, don't worry about it.
Yeah, Skinwalker is more like the southwestern, desert region. It's more common up down there. And Wendigo is like, if there's snow, Wendigos might happen. Which, for the reason described earlier, it's basically the human brain has to have coping mechanisms to deal with things that are traumatic. And I mean, we can think of some pretty traumatic stuff these days, but one of the most horrifying things I can even think of is, you're starving, maybe your children are starving, maybe your children have, died, or your parents have died because of the winter, but you don't want to starve, and you give in to that. Well, there's meat there. I know it's grandma, but there's meat there, and you give into it, and then your mind just breaks. And so I can understand, having to find some way to cope, and the legend says basically they just keep getting hungrier and hungrier, which when people are starving, sometimes that can happen, or sometimes they just go crazy and, murder people, unfortunately. And there's not many cases of it. It doesn't happen in the modern day so much because there's, mental health assistance and all that, but it's based on, again, as far as I can tell, those legends and those, stories of people going mad from having eaten human flesh and not being able to mentally deal with it. And then just, this is the story that builds from it. It's all legends have a grain of truth. That's the grain of truth in that one.
And so were these festivals used also as a way to ward these creatures off? Or, it might not have been like physical creatures, but just like the thought of these creatures. Were these festivals used as a way to ward these off as well, instead of just like necessarily like, because there's always two sides to every coin, right? So there's obviously the side of like, yeah, hey, it's all downhill from here. It's the light's coming back, yay. But also, is it just kind of like, was it a way to ward those off, or have I got that wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. A lot of the traditions have an undercurrent of protection, of warding, of trying to keep the darkness out. There's a part that I didn't write on it so much as I just quoted part of it further down in the thread, called the Wild Hunt, where gods and spirits and the dead, were out in the woods in winter, which what else was out in the woods in winter in Europe in, 1500 years ago? Wolves. But, you might not see the wolves. European wolves were very silent hunters, and you didn't always know what happened to someone who disappeared. And I feel like the Wild Hunt came out of that, where they're trying to figure out what happened to their loved ones, and they want to keep inside. So the light is to ward off everything, because, evil spirits don't like light. They're the strongest when the days are darkest, but as things start to weaken, they try to hold on to their grip, and the light helps ward them away. Certain plants that are brought into the house, which is not universal, but very common, it will have a protective property to it. Certain colors are associated with certain aspects of protection, and just things like that. There's something, I think it's called a payat or a payak. It was one of the things that was mentioned in the thread. It's a very intricate Latvian, almost a dream catcher made of straw, and it serves the same purpose of catching and confusing evil spirits, bad spirits meant to bring you bad dreams, anything like that. It catches them and it confuses them, and they're these very, very intricate geometrical mobiles made of straw and string, and they're beautiful, but they're meant to protect people against spirits that might have made their way into the house.
Yeah, and so across the world, you're right, there are these, because I've heard of a couple of them. There's obviously the Wendigo, and then farther north in Canada, there's actually one called the Washuge, which this one is almost more elemental. It's like made of ice, so it literally is death. It's a cannibal, man-eating, elemental, icy monster that just hunts people, and is the whole entire trope, I guess, is to lead people into the forest during winter. And I mean, I guess back then that means death.
It did. I didn't look into this, and I feel like I kind of neglected it, because I know this is a thing that happens, that people back then wouldn't have been able to explain, but would have been very quick to assign to, the fae or the evil spirits or, whatever, luring people out into the woods. And it's something called paradoxical undressing, which is something that people with hypothermia to a degree do. There's a certain point
Right.
in hypothermia. Yeah, there's a certain point in hypothermia where you start to feel warm again. You're not, but you're very cold and your brain is very confused and you think you're hot. So you start taking off layers, and then they find you, a few days later, picked over. You've been in the sun. If you're a lighter skinned individual, you will have turned a weird orange, because being out in the sun at that altitude or that area after death will make you, you don't tan, but it just, your skin changes to an odd color. It's like almost a burnt sienna type orangey glow almost. And there's pictures of it online here and there, and it's just disturbing to see. And I can only imagine what,
Right.
what
It's
he would think
gross.
if he saw. It's disturbing. And you've been picked over by carnivores. That would be something that they would be like, oh, something got Nord, something got our friend. We don't know what it was. We have no explanation for this.
And
It
he's
has
naked.
to be, yeah.
Yeah.
They have no explanation for it. Of course, back then, it's going to be, evil gods or the Fae or the Nords or something. Maybe not the Nords. They're neutral, but.
Yeah. And, it is great. And we can definitely go into the whole thing of like the festivities that took place. But if you look into like the history of these festivals and Christmas, even, there's always a dark side to it too, like Krampus. If anybody has ever looked into Krampus, he is also kind of like a psychotic.
Krampus is fun. I actually put him in the article. Krampus is fun. Maybe just his modern interpretation of him. I'm sure he was a lot more scary, in the 1500s when, it's like St. Nicholas will come and give you gifts on the 5th, but if you're naughty, Krampus will come and whip you with birch rods or eat you.
Yeah, the way that I always heard it was that he would come and he would hunt like naughty children and eat them. So like there always has been this dark side. And then you brought up the what was she called, the Gryla or Grilla as well.
I think it's one of those pronunciations, but yeah, Gryla, I think. And again, this is just me going off memory. I've read about her in the past, but I know like she eats people is what I know.
Well, it's even more fucked up than that, because like the way that I've heard of the Gryla, she comes like from the outer fields that are frozen or like the edge of the forest with a bag, like she has like a sack, and then so she comes out and she will carve out the stomachs of children who ask for meat during Lent or something like that. Like that's one variation, but it's pretty messed up, man. Like back then they didn't even mess around. They're like, yeah, they'll come and cut out your stomach, and it's like, why are you telling kids this?
I mean, that's like what the Grimm's fairy tales, the original one, like it's messed up. Like they don't mess around in Germany and that whole area. Like they don't mess around. They have fun, but if you mess up, they get you. In their fairy tales.
Yeah, they'll cut out your stomach.
Or, or they'll, hack off their toes to try and marry a prince or make you dance in hot lead shoes.
As far as, there always is this dark side of things. And everybody, I'll include some links in the description if you want to check some of this stuff out, like the darker side. But let's kind of move into the more positive things. So the next section of the post that you made, you start talking about other winter holidays.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, some people aren't super familiar with. Like, one thing I actually learned was I thought Kwanzaa was, a traditional African holiday, or at least one that had kind of been imported over after, maybe the civil rights movement or something, when there's more, people of African descent, first generation, second generation immigrants coming over and, kind of integrating their own culture into America. And the reason I kind of assumed that was the name is, I believe, Swahili. And there's a decent Swahili population in the US, decent amount that speak it. So I had made the assumption. And then I read into it, and it was actually a holiday created by a doctor whose name fails me at the moment, and I didn't write it down. But he wanted to kind of help African Americans that had been through the civil rights movement, the ones that came before, obviously from, the days of the slave trade and everything, sort of reconnect to their African roots. And I thought that was kind of an interesting concept, especially because it's a secular holiday. It's not, you can be Jewish and still celebrate Kwanzaa. It might get a little confusing depending on when the days are scheduled, but you probably can. You could be Catholic and celebrate Kwanzaa if you wanted to. You could be Voodoo and celebrate Kwanzaa if you felt like it, because it's a fully secular holiday. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I personally probably wouldn't celebrate it myself because I don't necessarily like connect with it or resonate with it. But I think it's awesome. And the doctor's name was, I might butcher this, Maulana Karenga.
Yeah, I wasn't going to attempt it from memory because I don't have it in front of me. And because it's on my phone, I don't want to accidentally knock you off the Zoom meeting. And I didn't think to bring my laptop down here like a silly person. So
yeah, I got it. I got it all. I got everything here. So, everything comes, the best parts of these festivals is like the food and the drink. And, even the Romans, they had one called Saturnalia. And during that one, they would have a day where the slaves, quote unquote, became the masters, where they would like, everybody knew that it was just a joke. You know what I mean? It's like the slaves could like tell their master to get him a drink and they would go get him a drink. And it's like, haha, yeah.
They're not gonna like go and whip, the master or anything.
Right. It's like, yeah, ha ha ha, yeah, but you're still my slave. But yeah, we know that.
Yeah, and there's a link in the article itself that is like, it's eight solstice holidays from around the world, and Saturnalia is covered fairly decently in that one. And I didn't want to write over what I had linked, and I felt like that link carried over well from the previous year. So I wrote more about ones that weren't really mentioned in that article as much, which is why I picked the ones I did, which were more, you've heard of them, you probably know what they are, but here's a little information anyway.
Yeah, but there's a ton of them. But, a lot of them, what I really want to know about is like specifically Christmas, and how the way that I always kind of looked at it is that there was these pagan holidays and they were celebrating the winter solstice. And then Christianity, or the Catholic Church specifically, came in and saw that these winter solstices were celebrating other things. And they were like, okay, you know what? We need to find a way to make this about the church. And so this is what we're going to celebrate during this winter solstice time. And that's how you get Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus, and all that different stuff. So what's your take on that?
So one of the responses that I got from this post, they mentioned something that it sounds like a Catholic doctrine, and I am definitely not Catholic. So I don't know anything about this. It was based on like something, the Julian calendar and all this. But one thing I remember hearing was Jesus was not if he was born at all, if he was not like an amalgamation of several people, which is a theory, if they're actually talking about like, one solid person, he was probably not born in winter based off biblical documentation, that the shepherds aren't going to be in the field at night, no matter where they are, because it's going to be cold in winter. It gets cold. They're not going to be out there at night. They're going to have their herds inside, so they wouldn't have been out to see the star. He was probably born sometime in the late spring. There's a, and I didn't, again, I was still brushing up on this because my intention with the post was to kind of keep the conversation going since it's pinned and, learn from the people that are discussing bits and bobs of it here and there. One thing I learned was the December 25th may have been chosen not because of the closeness to the Yule holiday, which is usually the 21st of December, but it can shift a day or two, kind of depends based on, because it's an astronomical thing. It just depends. So it can shift, one day or the other. But more because when Christianity came to Rome, there were some of the higher, more elite Romans that were worshiping Mithras, who supposedly has like a feast day or was supposedly born on December 25th. And Mithras is a very Christ-like character, so his birthday or feast day or whatever was co-opted as, hey, we need to kind of combine this, codified in the 4th century, and then as Christianity spread westward, they saw all these winter solstice festivals, and they couldn't convince the pagans to drop them entirely. And they're just kind of like, well, it worked for the Romans, it might work for us. You know what? We don't really care how you celebrate it, as long as, you're not committing sin in the street, and as long as you're saying it's for Jesus. If you're doing that, we're good. So it's kind of more of an amalgamation of, we need, solid dates because the nativity story is becoming more popular. Well, here's this handy dandy thing right here that a lot of well-to-do people celebrate that might get us, get the ball rolling. And then later on down the road, we need to convert these people. They don't want to convert. Let's just rename their holidays and see if they're okay with that. And it worked, kind of.
Right. So the whole, basically what happened is the Catholic Church came in and hijacked all of these various solstices for their own end, I guess, if we want to be like kind of mean about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, definitely. You could also say that there was a certain point where, you've got these people fighting and warring and living next door to each other for centuries. People eventually get tired. People intermarry. Faiths do change over time. I feel like there might have been more blending than is given credit, especially because we don't have a lot of records at that time. The biggest record we have of especially the Norse mythology is from Snorri Sturluson. Not an easy name to say with a speech impediment. And he wrote that, I think, 3 centuries after the area he was writing about became Christianized. So how much of Norse mythology is original, how much is created, we don't know for sure, because they didn't really write their own mythologies down anywhere except, statuary, which there's not a lot of.
Yeah. And one thing, so I reached out to someone else about coming on the show because I was looking for someone who was knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, I wanted to call this episode A Pagan Christmas. And this person was like, yeah, well, Christmas doesn't come from paganism. So what do you say about that?
Christmas is super pagan. um, so we have the baby witch phenomena on witchcraft a lot, which is new people who are coming on asking questions. And of course, around the holidays, people are like, how do I celebrate Yule? What do I do? What do I do? I'm in the broom closet. I'm hiding. I'm not really out saying, yay, I'm, whatever. And I get a little glib with it, but I will just be like, Christmas minus Jesus equals Yule. Like, that is my formula. Like, if you take the nativity stuff out of Christmas, the majority of the things that are celebrated in Europe, that are celebrated in America, they don't have anything to do with, a Jewish guy born in the Middle East 2,000 some odd years ago. Nothing.
Yeah, so I just for maybe I'm a bit of an asshole, but I was like, this is a quote from them. They were like, Christmas generally did not develop from pagan traditions, and most of the information parading as common knowledge today on that subject is nonsense. Now, isn't like paganism nowadays like a religion in and of itself?
Paganism is a blanket term for a large amount of smaller religions. So you've got things like heathenry, which is Norse paganism. You've got Hellenists, which they follow the Greek gods. You've got the Kemetics. Anyway, they follow the Egyptian deities. You've got Wiccans, who are their own thing that was created by a man named Gerald Gardner in the 50s, 30s, 50s. Dates up for debate on that one. There's a bunch of other little reconstructionist faiths. The Celts have one. There's all sorts of different little things that are included in paganism, but paganism itself is just a blanket term.
Okay, so in your definitive opinion, if I was to ask you a yes or no question, is Christmas pagan?
My answer would be it can be, if you're creative.
I'm just trying to get you to commit.
Well, that's the thing. It is a holiday that has existed for hundreds of years. It has had a very storied history, and you could answer yes or you could answer no, and you'd be correct either way. It just depends on what way you're looking at it.
Yeah, I get you. I understand that. And most people don't like to just say like yes one way or the other. And it might not be even appropriate because like you said, we just don't know, because it could be like a giant, like you said, blending of these cultures over time. Or, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, Catholic Church bad. It could just be, Christians moved in and started marrying these pagans, and then it just, men want to make their wives happy and vice versa, so they start doing all these different traditions, and it just blends together, and all of a sudden you get this thing that is Christmas or Yule or there's a few others that you had mentioned in there, like I think Hanukkah was one of them. I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a bunch of them that just kind of come from this that are around this time.
Yeah, I mean, and Hanukkah is kind of an interesting case. It's actually, if you go off the dates of when it originated, it's older than the current concept of Christmas. It was thought up in, I think, the 3rd century BC, maybe BCE. 3rd century BCE. Excuse me. The Maccabees defeated an army and took back Jerusalem, and it's a minor holiday, but it's gotten more prevalent in Europe and America because of its proximity to Christmas. And I mean, it's just people want in on the lights and the fun. And because this was a minor holiday with not a lot of religious stuff tied to it. There is some, but not nearly as much as there are in other holidays for the Jewish people. This one kind of became like the big winter kids holiday thing. It's just, and it's one of those modern amalgamations where things have just kind of changed within the last, 50, 100 years.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I mean, just think about it from just like your own life. If you're there and all these people are having fun and you know, I guess like they're making sweets and they're playing games and they're drinking and they're having all this good time and but they're doing it to celebrate this God that you don't believe in. You would want to make sweets and play games and drink and all that stuff too, but you'd want to celebrate it your own way too. So that really makes sense that all these were kind of like, oh yeah, but it kind of leads me to believe that Christmas is like almost, even though it didn't come first, it's like a trendsetter almost.
Modern Christmas is definitely a trendsetter, but it's had like a very storied history. The carousing, drinking, fighting, partying Christmas that was famous in England before the Protestant Reform, that got banned for years, to the point where there was some kind of takeover and the British monarchy was overthrown. And this was just for a few years. And people eventually got so tired of just the boring, staid, non-celebratory Puritans / Protestants that were running the thing that they reinstated the King of England to get Christmas back. Of the weirdest things, like they reinstated it because they were tired of being fined for trying to party when it's depressing. I don't remember what British king it was. Obviously, I'm not British, so I that was just another one of those kind of random one-off facts that I remembered about, when I was researching this. I'm just like, that's hilarious, and then the Puritans came over here and they're like, no, America will not have Christmas. We will be a pure country. That didn't last long either.
Well, I mean, dude, people need holidays. People need a time to kick back because life is not easy. It's even back then. It's changed now where people have to go to work and then they have to have kids and come home and they have to pay money. But back then, people had to go out and work their fields and they had to work at their trade. And then Christmas was an excuse to just kick back and be like, it. We're gonna have fun.
Absolutely, people need holidays. People need a release valve. Life is stressful. Life is hard. You deal with hardship all the time, and holidays are a way to stop, hit the pause button, do something that you don't normally do, meet with people you might not see all the time, catch up, and just, be with family, be with friends, release your inhibitions a bit, and just live for a little bit. People definitely need holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally hate thinking about work like all day, every day. It sucks. I get like I'm lucky enough to get 2 weeks off for Christmas, and it's all I'm thinking about right now. I do not care about anything else but my 2 weeks off. I'm so excited.
I completely understand. I pretty much acknowledged that today at work. I'm like, there is nobody going to be here. Like, we're not going to get anything done. No one's going to be here next week. It's going to be me because I'm an idiot and like 2 other people that feel the need to come in. And that's going to be it. Like, this place is going to be a ghost town. There's going to be tumbleweeds in the hallway. But, it's just everybody needs that break. And I think with it being in winter, I think that is actually the best time to have a longer break because people do get seasonal affective disorder. People do get more ill at this time of year. People get, they get more reminiscent. They remember past hurts, past sadnesses, and they need that break of kind of just joyful celebration, regardless of the meaning behind it. They need a time to be just dedicate to being happy about stuff, to just heal from the stress of the year.
Right. And it's not something that people really talk about that often. I'm glad we're talking about it because it what it does is it opens up a dialogue. It gets people thinking like, yeah, you know what, we do need breaks. And I think in America, at least, we simply just don't get enough breaks.
No, there's people that, they brag about, oh, I didn't take a break to do any of this. And I just look at you, not you, but I look at them and I'm like, why would you admit to just having nothing to bring you joy in life? Like, there's not a person, one, who is working a regular job that doesn't just, not everybody derives joy from their job. If you're working your dream job, even you have days where you're like, oh, this sucks, I should have been an accountant or whatever. It's just to act like you're, I don't know, better or impervious to needing a break is silly as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it's we call that, in the space that I kind of live in like the spiritual hypnotist, past life regression, chakra healing, whatever you want to call it. We call that ego.
That sounds about right.
So, okay, now we got to move in. We got to touch on this. Okay. The shit log.
Okay. So I heard about Kagatio from a different podcast. It's Witchcraft Off the Beaten Path by Molly Dyer, and it was her Yule special, I think a year ago, that I listened to, and she described it, and I was just cackling on my drive home because I'm just like, what? They do what now? No, and it is a thing. It is actually a thing. They go, they decorate a log. Now it used to be like they get a hollowed out log and they would stuff little treats and trinkets in there, and the kids will sing a song at it and basically threaten it with, if you don't poop out good treats, we will beat you with sticks because we have taken care of you. They get the log, they feed it, quote unquote, with like porridge. I guess they just jam it up in its mouth. I don't know. They feed it up until Christmas, and then like the day before Christmas, they beat the tar out of this log, and then they go to the other room to pray, I guess, for forgiveness for beating the poop log, and their parents like either shuffle the treats out or sneak treats under a blanket next to it, and they, it's nougat and nuts and little candies and maybe little tiny toys and stuff, and then the very last, gift turd, I guess, is like sardines and vinegar and gross stuff to prove that, hey, log is pooped out. It's the most ridiculous thing.
The first time I read through, I was in a hurry to like read through all of it because I was on like a break or something, and I thought that because the way that I just skim read it, okay, and it says, you said like a hollow log is brought inside, and I had to go back later and read it. But what I thought was going on is that the kids, when they quote unquote fed the log, what they were doing was like shitting in this hollow log. And I was like, what? No way.
I mean, maybe one kid misunderstood. Maybe one kid misunderstood. I don't know. That would make it so much worse.
I just like that's what went through my head. I was like, no way. I was like, they bring a log and they shit in it. Like,
oh God. Of all the ways that could have been misconstrued, I did not even think that way. But now I'm never gonna be able to not picture that.
The shit like log. Yeah, new Christmas tradition. Do not send me pictures. Anyway.
No. Oh God. So here's a Christmas card for you.
Yeah, the poop log. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about you and me. So, what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Mine, as far as Christmas goes, or Yule or whatever. So, I am in a very mixed faith family. My dad is non-practicing Jewish, who celebrates Christmas. My mom is Catholic. My husband he was raised Catholic, but he is now like atheist, agnostic, and I am me. um, so it's a little storied there, but I think my favorite part of just the entire holiday season is just getting everyone together and, having that time of just togetherness and talking, catching up, even though I see them all the time, because we all live very close to each other, and I see them, at least once a week, most of them. It's just, there's something different about it at a holiday time, because you've set the time aside, you're not rushed, you're just sitting and enjoying the meal and talking about whatever, talking about the lights, talking about how much the kid has grown, talking about, just life. And that's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, it's like it's different from like going to your dad's house because you need him to watch your kid for a couple hours so you can just get some damn shopping in. It's different because you're all here. We're all here to have a good time. We're all here to laugh and have fun, and it's just a different atmosphere. I love that too. And my favorite, like what we do and what we've always done, is we have like 6 days or however many days we feel like, where we just get together at someone's house and we'll whip out the board games and the card games. There'll be snacks, there'll be sodas, there'll be, I guess, like in the Midwest they call it pop, and the other places they call it Coke. So whatever.
No, we call it soda here. We're not weird.
Yeah, that's what you call it. Controversial opinion. It's soda. It's
Thank
not
you.
pop. It's not Coke. And if you think that way, you're wrong. Hit me up on my Facebook and tell me.
If you think it's sody pop, I'm watching you. You're on a list somewhere. I don't trust you.
Hit me up on my Facebook and tell me if it's pop, Coke, soda, or sody. We'll do that. But yeah, we get together for like 6, sometimes 7 or 8 days. Then we'll all bring like snacks, whatever we got laying around, like popcorn, chips, candy, even like carrots or whatever, veggie plates. Doesn't matter as long as there's food and something to drink, and then we just play games and just chill out and relax until Christmas, and then we open all the presents. And on Christmas Eve, we open up pajamas every single time. It's always pajamas. Everybody knows it's pajamas, but we all pretend like, oh man, I don't know what it's going to be this time, but it's always pajamas, and it's just kind of fun.
I've heard of that. Like there's some places where that's actually like the main tradition all in the area, and I've always thought that was kind of neat. There's one that when my kid is a little older, I'd like to do, where it's I want to say Norwegian thing, where the night before Christmas, everybody gets to open a present. That present is a book, and you just sit and you read and you drink hot chocolate and you snack on butter cookies, and just kind of sit in the quiet and read your book that was a gift. And I'm like, I read way too much. I've got so many books. My kid has so many books. I'm sitting in my downstairs office right now that has a freaking library in it, pretty much. It's ridiculous. And I would love to kind of include that in the holiday traditions when, again, kid is a little older and can read.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would hate that for myself because I hate reading. And that might trigger you. Let it out. Let it out. But let me tell you why though. I'll explain why, because I have a condition called aphantasia. So when apparently when most people like read books, they can see the story unfolding in their head, but I see nothing. It's just like I'm just reading words.
My
So
mother is like that, so I get it.
yeah, it's boring. Like I'm just like, geez, this sucks. However, if you got me an Audible credit for a book, I'd be like down for it. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll sit down and I'll
See, this is
listen to a book.
it's different to have someone read it to you versus you having to like read it yourself. And I understand that. It's, as you can either actively hear it or you passively take in the information and you either build a picture in your head or you hear someone reading in your head, which some people with aphantasia can't do either. Or
Yep, that's me.
in your case, you don't do either. I am not, I don't have that. I have pictures in my head all the time.
Well,
So,
lucky you, and lucky everyone
oh,
else. There's dozens
wait.
of us. There's dozens of us people with aphantasia, and we will form a coalition.
Well, they're thinking it's something like 10% of the population might actually have it. So I don't think it's just dozens of you.
Dozens. No, but
Mm.
I've actually had a lot of people email me and be like, "Hey, oh my God, I didn't even know what this was. I didn't even know that I had this until I listened to your show. So thank you." And I'm like, "Yeah, it sucks, bro." Anyway, we've been talking for a good while now, Ashley, and I always ask this. What do you got going on? I know you got your store, you've got the subreddit. What do you want to plug on my show? Plug it. I want you to plug it all.
Well, the store's not mine. I didn't realize that I had worded that way until I read your response. I'm like, oh, whoops, it's not my store. It is just my favorite store. I am in the St. Louis region, and I am lucky to have within driving distance 4 New Age shops that I can go to. And I've been to all of them. I have my favorite, I have my old favorite, and I would like to plug my current favorite, which is Pathways New Age bookstore. It is in, oh dang, I can never remember. It's in the St. Louis area. I don't remember the street it's on because I Google directions. But they are a fantastic New Age shop to go to if you're looking for books. They have a fantastic selection of books, old favorites, new works, stuff like that, stuff you never really expected. The only thing they don't have is a used section, like a discount, secondhand thing, which is more my speed. So I don't make it out there as often as I'd like. They have an herb section, which is huge. It smells fantastic inside. They've got more candles than you can shake a match at. They've got crystals in the windows that range from everything from thumbnail sized little whatevers to quartz points you could beat someone with. Like there's one that is literally the size of a small bat. I'm like, it's just for when you can't chase the good or the bad vibes away, you beat them out of them. That sort of thing. They are a fantastic store, and I would like for them to, they survived the pandemic, and I would like for them to have many more years of business. So it would be, yeah, Pathways in St. Louis.
And do they have a website where they like do online orders or anything, or is it all in person?
They do have, you can order online. I don't know if they ship. I believe they do. Again, they're just a one-off store. They're not like a chain or anything. You can order online. They will mail to a certain degree, I believe. And their website again is, I think it's just pathways.com. They have a Facebook page, and you can find them just by, Googling Pathways St. Louis.
Great. Well, if you're ever out in the St. Louis area, or if they have that, if they have the website, head on over to that. I'll link that into the description if I could talk. And actually, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you have a message for my audience?
If you are someone who is looking into the more I don't know, esoteric side of the holidays, and you're not sure if you can celebrate Yule because of whatever reason, your faith, your race, your background, you can celebrate Yule. It is open to everyone. It is a welcoming holiday, and feel free to just, do some research on it, see what you like, celebrate how you choose. But you are more than welcome to celebrate Yule. It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter who you are.
Very well put. Well, Ashley, happy Yule, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, happy Saturnalia, and all that great stuff. Thanks for coming on my show and sharing your time with me. It's been a great time talking to you. You've been very knowledgeable, and I really, really appreciate it. That's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank Ashley for coming on to the show and sharing her knowledge, and I'd also like to thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, share it around with your friends, your family, your coworkers, whoever you think might be interested in either listening to the show or coming on to the show. If you're interested in coming on to the show, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I would love to have you on the show. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Oh, yeah, I bet that you know exactly what I'm talking about then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I made a Facebook post about this. I was like, being a dad's great and all, but nobody prepares you for the poop.
I think my husband made that exact same post. I think that's
sure, a lot of us have.
I feel like that's a rite of passage. It's just I have no more boundaries. I'm just posting about the fact that my kid is a tiny poop factory. Please.
Yeah,
help.
it's true. However, I'm never going to be one of those parents that posts pictures of their kids' poop because that's disgusting.
Oh, no, don't. Ugh. I don't understand those people.
Yeah, it's wrong.
No. The only time poop should be on the internet is when you are poop shaming the people that don't pick up after their dogs.
Dude, I saw this lady on my camera letting her dog poop in my yard, and she it was in the leaves that my son was playing in, and she didn't clean it up, and so I was waiting for her to come out. She came by the same time every morning. So one day I caught her, dude, and I opened the door and I was like, "Hey!"
Oh God!
I was like, "What are you doing? My son plays in those." And I let her have it, and she took off running or hobbling or whatever, and I was like, "Yeah, don't come back." And now my Yuletide interview with Ashley.